Okay, so the next thing that we need to do is just to set things up so that we can return to the menu when we're done. So in our game scene, we are going to go to our round over panel, highlight the menu button. We're going to add an on-click event to the menu button, drag in a reference to the game controller, and on game controller, we're going to call the... Oh, I didn't add the method yet. Whoops. Okay. We need to add a public function that returns void called return to menu. And this is simply going to call scene manager dot load scene menu screen. So worth noting, right? We're always loading back to the menu screen. We never return to the persistent scene. So we load that once when the game starts, and then we always just return to the second scene every time we want to play again. And so that is the way that we make sure that we never get more than one instance of the data controller. Okay, so let's save that. And now we can choose that function, return to menu. Okay, and so the last thing that we need to do, we can return to the menu. The last thing that we need to do is our timer, which is quite simple. Let's return to the game controller, and in update, we are going to do the following. First of all, we're going to check if the round is active, right? So we're going to say if is round active, then we're going to subtract from time remaining, right? So time remaining minus equals time.delta time. Time.delta time is the time it took to render the last frame. So we're going to subtract from our available time remaining. We are going to call we're going to update our time display. So we need to add a little tiny function to do that. And that is just going to be a private function that returns void called update time remaining display. And that is going to just be time remaining. Do I not have a variable for this? Let's see. No. Okay, let's add that. We're going to have a public text, time remaining display text, or time remaining display. Well, I called the other ones text. Let's be consistent. Okay. Time remaining display. What am I doing here? No, here. Time remaining display text dot text equals time space time colon space quotation mark plus mathf.round time remaining dot toString, right? So we're going to add the amount of time remaining to this and round it to a whole number, convert it to a string, and display it using the time remaining display text. In update, then we're just going to call, after we subtract from the time, we're going to call update time remaining display. And we're also going to call that, let me just do this now. We're going to also call that in start after we set time remaining. And So we set time remaining from the current round data, and then we're just going to update the time display just to make sure that is, I mean, it should be like a minuscule amount of time, but still. Okay, and then in update, we're going to check if time remaining is less than or equal to 0, meaning we're out of time. Then we are going to call end round. And that is a good place to stop and test. So in update, right, we're subtracting from our total amount of time. If the round is active, we're displaying the time, checking if we've run out of time, and if we have, we're ending the round. All right, let's save that. Jump back over, and we need to set our variables in the game controller. We need to add from the UI the time display and save changes to the game scene. Go to the persistent scene. There we go. Okay, so we can see our time is counting down. We can answer that yes, lions are carnivores. Mice, they live on the moon, obviously. And frogs love to eat pizza. And the round is over. The timer stops. We can return to the menu, and everything appears to be working as intended. Let's just make sure our timer can count down to 0 and that the round will end as well with a score of 0. So, assuming that works, hopefully that was interesting for you guys. And thanks for watching. Yay, the round is over. Okay, great. So I am going to stick around and take some questions from the chat. But yeah, thanks again for watching, and we will continue next week with a session where we are going to load our data from JSON files. We're going to create a little editor script that will allow us to set questions up a little better and add high scores. So thanks very much for watching. All right, let's take some questions from the chat. Somebody asking, can you show where you would put sounds in the game? I would probably put sounds in the, well, you could do it a lot of ways. I might attach them to, you could have a sound manager class, but you could also attach them to the buttons maybe, and have the button when it calls handle click, because the buttons know whether they're correct or not. So you could say when it calls handle click, play a sound based on whether it was correct or not. C-Stracken asks, next training, are you going to do JSON? Yes, we're going to cover loading data from JSON for this quiz game. So replacing the data that we had in the inspector with something loaded from JSON. Frobenius90 asks, I have a question which is not related to this game. I tried to add a canvas within a canvas, and the anchoring settings were not saved for the canvas residing in the main canvas. I don't think the intention is to nest canvases. You should have a parent canvas and then panels within the canvases. I don't know why you would nest canvases. C-Stracken asks, when you load the game and menu scenes, are they added to the scenes? They the menu and the game scene load as normal, meaning everything gets destroyed and then we load the next one. They don't live simultaneously. They replace each other. It's only the data controller that lives in the don't destroy unload scene. Yeah, Frank Tinsley says most UI can be on a single canvas. That's my experience as well, except as you say, world space UI, if you want different UI like floating around in the world. But I think generally speaking, you don't need lots of canvases usually. I mean, I don't know. C-Stracken, yeah, the way the visible don't destroy unload is kind of a product. Obviously we had don't destroy unload before, but since multi-scene editing, that's the way they visualize it now, where it's like treated as like a separate scene that doesn't get unloaded, which makes sense actually. In Shadow asks, can you load scene additive? You know, I actually asked Carrie about that when she sent me the first one. I was like, oh, we could use this to show additive scene loading instead of using don't destroy unload. But because of the way it's going to be expanded later, that proved not to be a good idea. So check back next week and it'll become more clear why we didn't do that. I thought of that too. Echo One Sarah asks, what did I add to the answer button game object pool? It just has the simple object pool script with the answer button in the prefab field. Hey, Jam Liquid Media. Good to see you. Yeah, C-Stracken, that's since 5.3, I think, that they started displaying it that way. Before, don't destroy stuff would just float in the hierarchy. DStew99, the data controller. Yep. Oh, you want to see the inspector or the script? Show you the inspector first. That is what's in the data controller. All right, y'all. Thanks very much. Enjoy your morning, evening, afternoon, whatever middle of the night time it is where you are. Thanks very much for joining me on the stream. And I will see you in 2 weeks.